folks? Welcome to BackTalk. I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia. What's up?
Sam Healey on the flip side.
So, today we're talking a little bit about digital games. Now, just recently, we all got the chance to play Mansions of Madness, which is
2.0.
2.0, right? The second edition of Mansions of Madness, which is the first game that I believe uses the digital app as much as the board game. Then, like, you literally cannot play this game without the digital app.
Right.
Other games have used digital apps before, but you usually can find some way to play around them.
Right.
With the exception of maybe World of Yoho, and there's a couple others.
XCOM, maybe.
Yeah, what about XCOM? Yeah,
I think didn't XCOM have, like, the thing you could read? I don't remember.
I don't know. But this one it's at least 50% of the game.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I talked about this on this week's Board Game Breakfast, and I mentioned how when they first talked about putting board games on smart pads and phones, I kind of laughed at the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, we were talking about how they had Scrabble and you could play it on the iPad, and then each person would have their phone and that would be your tiles.
Okay.
And I mocked it at the time, not because I thought it was a bad idea, but because I couldn't imagine people spending upwards of $2,000 on a board game. Because at that point, hardly anyone I knew had a smartphone and no one had an iPad. Well, now that's changed. Not everyone has pads yet, but almost everyone I know has some sort of smartphone.
Yes.
So the question is about using these digital implementations in board games. They just started doing this a few years ago. We've seen Alchemists, where you could scan the cards and it would tell you which one was which. XCOM told you exactly what random events happened in the game. Mansions of Madness ran a whole story for you. Mm-hmm. There are games like Ultimate Werewolf Ultimate Werewolf, in which you can play without the app, but it's very difficult. The app can do things. There's games that have scoring on apps, but it is still not a very widespread thing.
Right.
It's used in a few games. My question is, how do you feel about it? If you hear that a game needs an app or is best with an app, what do you think about that?
I'm on board with that idea, especially because I think we are past the point that the app is a crutch to the game. I hope we're past that point where I have a game, it needs a little something extra, a little oomph. So how do we do that? By using an app to prop it up. An app that could have easily been done on cards or could have easily been done without the need to implement some flashy graphics to hook people in, If we're past that point and the game utilizes that app to streamline your play experience, to help with, speeding up setup, to do something that is useful in game, then I'm on board 100%.
I would agree with that statement. The only problem that I have right now, currently, with these digital apps that are coming out and being integrated with the games is that it's, if you're the person that's in control of the app or the iPad or phone or whatever it is that you're running the app from, you're immersed in the game. But that doesn't mean Joe Schmo over there on the other side of the table that doesn't have the app to look at and can't really interact with the app, he's going to feel left out a little bit. And that's my main thing about apps right now.
Well, you can pass it around the table.
Understandably so, but now you're passing around a $300 to $400 device that if you drop it, it's going to cost a lot of money to fix it. And that comes with its own little snares as well. I'm not trying to be contrarian. I'm just saying that this is the one thing. The apps that are coming out are amazing. They're very cool. I love the Mansions of Madness one that we've used, and we did pass that around. And I've seen other people kind of projecting it up onto a screen and that type of thing in their homes.
That's really neat.
And that's really neat. But again, that's a lot of scratch to put down for basically a couple of hours of playtime. So until more games start using these kinds of apps, that's kind of a waste of money unless you're going to be using that for something else as well.
Well, I don't think anybody is necessarily rushing out there to buy an iPad to play Mansions of Madness.
Right.
Those people probably had an iPad or some sort of tablet.
But can you imagine playing that on a phone?
No.
See, that's what I'm saying.
No.
You have to have an iPad to be able to get the full effect of the digital app. That's what I'm kind of thinking about. And I know most people do, but there's a lot of people that don't have those bigger tablets that you can run this app on. And so they're going to be using their phones on a little, 7.5, 10-inch screen. It's just not going to be the same.
So I think what you're getting at is that you find this concept of games that use an app and require that app to be more exclusive than other previous games. Is that what you're?
I'm not trying to go the negative. I'm not trying to go down a negative route here. I'm just saying right now it seems that the people who are truly going to enjoy these games are a more exclusive bunch than just anybody walking into.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't
store.
think that's necessarily a bad. I'm not picking on you for kind of going down that line of reasoning. If I can buy a $20 card game and play that, I will.
Right.
And I might very well not be able to drop $100 for a box of plastic like from Fantasy Flight or Cool Mini or not, right?
Right.
Those games are $100
Yeah.
for a board game.
Right.
That's fine if you can afford that, But it is interesting that it's another level. The app integration is like an echelon above that.
Yeah.
You need this equipment
Right.
that doesn't come in the box.
Right.
And I think that's fine for me personally because I happen to already have had an iPad, right? And if it makes the game experience that much richer, if I can get my nephew to play it, who might look at the board game and go, yeah, I'll play it, but might look at it and I go, oh, in this game, World of Yoho, your ship is your phone. Oh, he was all over that. He was on that,
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm on board with, if it's going to bridge that gap a little bit. Now, the fear, of course, there is that the pendulum's going to swing the other way too much. That eventually we're going to be playing video games with a couple of cardboard bits out in front of you. And we're not there yet,
Well, let me ask you both a question about things you said. You said you like the app, that it's doing something and it's just not replacing some cards and stuff. But let's talk about, for example, Dead of Winter. I know you're not a huge Dead of Winter fan.
Right.
But in Dead of Winter, there's the crossword card deck. Well, they just replaced that with an app.
Mm-hmm.
And all the app does is it reads the card to you out loud, and then you pick the choice, and then you see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? That's not really doing anything. I mean, it's replacing a deck of cards.
Well, you're getting, I assume, a professional voice actors reading the card out loud.
It's just some random guy.
Besides that, the big one there is that I don't get to see the outcome. If they did that on the card, I'm perfectly happy playing it with cards.
Actually, for me, the big thing on that one, and the thing that excites me more about that app than anything else, and other apps that are like that, is the possibility for expansion. Right? If they want to add 10 more cards, boom, they can just press a button and they're there. Even if they have to buy them, it's a whole lot easier than saying, oh, I want to find a promo card. If you want to add a promo card to a game, you got to go hunt that promo card down.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if they sell the promo card online and, oh, here's $1, get 10 more cards, that's some new experiences for me, and that's not hard. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this digital, what do they call that when you buy extra content?
Microtransactions.
Right, microtransactions, and what do you call when you buy, DLC, downloadable content, right. Where you buy it later on, and that's extra stuff. That's intriguing because it's so easy to do.
Right. But again, that's what I'm talking about. That's the fear a little bit that I have. I don't want to be a doomsayer yet. But at some point, if that becomes the trend, you are kind of playing a video game with DLC and microtransactions that doubles as a board game. At some point, that pendulum will swing too far the other way. It's just how reactionary trends work. That's what I'm kind of worried about. I hope it doesn't go too far in that direction.
Well, back to you. What do you mentioned the iPad thing, and I could understand that, but there are games where you don't need the iPad. You definitely can use your phone. An example would be Alchemist, which is certainly not your style of game, but everyone can use a phone for that one. Or what's that Japanese game you just played?
The VR reality, the Mask of Anubis, yeah.
Mask of Anubis. I mean, any phone pretty much works with that. Do you have a problem with those? I mean, because most people are sitting on a smartphone.
True. Well,
or at least one person at the table has a smartphone.
Right, yeah. No, yeah. And smartphones, I mean, being able to use, it's just that the kind of the centerpiece that we use to provide the introduction for this conversation was Mansions of Madness 2.0.
Yeah.
You really, I mean, you can, it's functional on your phone, but it's just not going to be the same unless it's on a bigger screen. It's just not going to be the same. So that was my argument for that introduction, I guess you could say. Having having games that use apps that can be just as equally and just as greatly used on a phone than an iPad, I don't think that there's any problem with that at all. I think that's a natural step in the, I guess you could say, evolution of games, because everybody has a smartphone, and that's 100% statement. You shouldn't really do that, but more often than not, the people that are sitting at the table are going to have smartphones,
right.
And so and most of these apps are free. You're not going to have to pay a lot out of pocket to get them. I mean, we played that one game, that bird watching game. Can't remember what it was. But
Birds of a feather,
yeah,
right,
Birds
which
of a
is
Feather.
just a scoring.
All it did was it helped you keep your score.
Right.
And again, even stuff like that is cool.
It was fine. It was useful.
It takes care of accounting. It takes care of all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a useful thing. It's functional. So I'm not opposed to the creeping in of technology and digital use on board games. I just want to make sure that everybody's getting the same level of effect out of it as the person that is holding the device or what have you.
Okay.
That's my only thing.
Now, to clarify, we are not talking about the whole game being played on the phone or an iPad. That's a whole different subject, Ticket to
Right.
Ride and all these games. We're talking about where it's a board game mixed with these. Now, there's a lot of naysaying about this. One of the biggest things that people talk about is it's taking over. There's so many of them. And I don't understand that at all, because I think we see like 4 a year right
there's
now
a handful.
out of thousands of games that come out.
Yeah.
The other complaint that people have is, oh, well, you're going to have this device, and then in a few years it's going to be obsolete. And for that one, my response to that is just historically, there are games that have used things like, there's a VHS games, right? Which are not worth your time hunting down. But if you do want those, you can go to YouTube and get that. The fans of these games will make sure that you can still use that app somehow, some way. And even if the fans wouldn't get involved, most of these games that are coming out have big enough companies behind them that it just works.
Yeah.
I just don't understand this idea of. I know it bucks the trend of this belief you have that you'll buy a board game and have it for the next 150 years that you're gonna live, but it's sort of like not going out to dinner tonight because after I eat the food, it's gone. I also consumed that food. Just buy the game and make sure you play it now.
It's technically not gone.
Okay.
Okay, stop. That's what I'm saying. You cannot. I get it. It's quite possible that in 20 years, if you still own that game and it hasn't suffered from water damage and some cards haven't been ripped up and whatever, you cannot play because the app is obsolete. Okay, you're right. But why deny yourself the experience now? Because you might not be able to recreate said experience in 20 years. That's like not going to an amusement park now, because when you're 70, the roller coaster's going to hurt your bones. Go now. Like, I don't get that, I understand that it's wired into people's heads. I buy a board game, it's forever and ever. Well, these aren't. Just assume that. And then you're good to go.
This is true.
I say bring this on. I actually differ with Zee a little bit, where he said he doesn't want it to be a video game with a few cards. I don't want all games to turn into that, but I don't mind if some are. Manchester Madness is literally 50% of the game is on that iPad,
Sure.
For sure. I don't mind that. I have fun with that because for me, it's not so much about the medium, it's that I'm getting together with other people.
Sure.
And if I could do some things like, for example, Manchester Madness lets me roll my own dice. Thank you. Right? That's something I want to do.
But that's what I'm asking. What can the app do? And this is a question for both of you, really. What would an app that showed up in a game here today do that you would think this is a step in the wrong direction for app-driven board games, for games that incorporate an app? Taking away your dice rolling, is that something you would be uncomfortable with?
Yeah, I like rolling dice. I really do.
Okay, what about drawing your own cards?
No, I'm cool with the app doing that.
Yeah.
What else are you like? I mean, at what point have they basically taken away too much that you're not really playing a board game anymore?
I like when they take away. Okay, let me think about things I do. Like, take away my bookkeeping, please.
Scoring, bookkeeping.
Scoring and bookkeeping, yes. Take away random events. If they take away all the card decks, I'm cool with that, except maybe like item cards. Like, again, I think Mansion Madness did a good job. I got to keep my items, so I could see what I have.
Yeah.
But it did the bookkeeping. It kept telling me how much damage the monsters did. I didn't have to keep track of that. It kept the random events going. I like that. Dice rolling's a big one. I know that you can roll dice on apps, and there's even ones where you can like swipe and you can see them roll, but it's just not the same.
What if instead of miniatures on the table, all the miniatures were just on the iPad and you put out a token?
Get out. Don't ruin my miniatures.
And they could charge you $50 less for the game. Would that be okay?
I would be on board if they were holographic.
Ooh.
I would be on board if they were holographic.
Yes, yeah.
No, I mean,
you still couldn't manipulate them. You still couldn't paint them. There's all these things that they're taking away from you.
There are digital painting apps. I'm sure that if you can make a holographic miniature, you can paint it digitally. Come on, man.
Okay, but
it's the way of the future.
But there is, I do like holding the miniatures. They came out with a game 3 or 4 years ago. What was that game called?
Golem Arcana.
Golem Arcana. Wow,
I'm on board today.
Golem Arcana was a game that had miniatures that you could move around, but you could also play it on the iPad, and you could literally play it on the iPad.
Just a video game.
Without the miniatures, but you know what? I didn't like that because I actually like seeing the miniatures. I like seeing a 3D representation of the board, and like, again, going back to Mansions of Madness, we played and you could see things, but then we also had the board in front of us and I could see who was where. You can see what monsters were where, and I like that. I like being able to look at that 3D representation. So now, if holographics come into play, that's a whole different thing at that point.
That's a different ball game, yeah.
It is.
I think atmosphere is one thing that is highly enhanced by apps. We just played London Dread not too long ago, and that's a fun board game. But and you can play without the app. You can just play with a timer and read the story or whatever. But
little sound effects and the music
sounds of the city, the night. They read the story out to you. It's a great representation of what's going on. It's immersive, and that's what I think an app needs to do.
Right.
Take away bookkeeping and give you immersion. If you're doing that with your app, keep on bringing it.
Yep, I agree.
All right, well, tell us what you think in the comments. I know some people out there hate apps and everything with them. Some people love them, and people fall somewhere in between. May the arguing begin. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, thank you, folks.
Sam Healey. See you on the flip side, y'all.